Today, this is just an introduction. In my course description, unlike the European nations, in East Asia, Korea is surrounded by big countries. They usually call it the empire. Later, I will give the definition of empire, but the definition of empire in my mind is somewhat different from many of the prominent authors. Korea is here in Northeast Asia, China, Japan, Russia, and here, all across the Pacific, but they are not that far away. So, under this situation, it's very hard to talk about international relations because Korea-China, Korea-Russia, Korea-Japan, and Korea-US relationship is not like the relationships among or between the European countries. They are among the same size, the territories and the population and the national strength is almost the same. There are some superpowers out there, that's to be sure. But anyway, there are many states, many nation states are out there in this the other part of the Eurasian continent. Unfortunately, most of the social scientific theories, including historical sociology, was developed in that area. So when they talk about nation state, they just assumed their own historical experience. They instilled the theory from their own past experiences. So the situation is totally different. I think you can tell the difference. In European countries, England, France, Germany, almost the same. Italy, Spain. There are many other states out there, Sweden, Switzerland, and many Denmark or other countries. But there are many states, and they have interstate relationships. But in Korea, the situation is very different. We are surrounded by not nation states, but empires. So until now, many Korean students, not just students, Korean intellectuals, Korean politicians, and Korean military leaders, economic leaders, they think we are a very small and very weak state. So the only way we can survive is to side with one big country, one big empire, superpower. We know the net result of that. At the end of the 19th century, we heavily depend on the Chinese empire. When the disintegration and the collapse of the Chinese empire is also the end of the Korean independence. Korea is under the colonial rule by Japanese empire. And after the Second World War, we got divided by Soviet Union and the US. And we fought, we killed each other, and still we got divided. So, in order to understand our past and also present, we should understand the relationship, not among the same level sovereign nation states, but also how we survived, how our ancestors survived or they failed to survive among this empire relationship. That's my theme. Nowadays, as you all know, the trade relationship with China just exceeds that of the Korea-US trade plus the Korea-Japan trade. Now, Korean economy is heavily depend on the China to survive and to prosper. And it's not only the commodities. The Korean, there are many Chinese people, Chinese students, or on our own campus in Korean University, and many Korean students who are in Nanjing campus too, and in many of the Chinese universities. I myself have 3 graduate course Chinese students under my own supervision, and 5 undergraduate students. So in our campus, Korean University campus, you can listen to many foreign languages, including Chinese. That's the reason I began to study Chinese language, in order to make some communications. Just a decade ago, 10 years ago, it's more than enough. You can handle fine English, you can survive. Now we are in between, so-called G2 countries, China and the US. So I titled this course, the subtitle of this course is Korea and Empires, not Korea's place in the sun or Korea's international relations. When I was studying in the US, I got really shocked because when they teach international relations in the US, I have audited many international relations courses in Harvard University. When they talk about international relations, so-called IR, let me give you one short quiz. Do you think Korea US relationship is international relations? US England relationship is international relations. England France relationship is international relations. France Germany relationship is international relations. But I will ask you, US Japan relationship, is that international relations or not? What do you think? How about Korea-US relationship? Do you think that's international relations or not? It's a tough question. You know, you can definitely say, you know, the China-US relationship is international relations. That's for sure. They are the superpowers, and they have all their sovereign right. Well, let me ask you, my fellow Korean students. Do you think Korea-US relationship is international relations or not? What do you say? All through my course, I can tell you, you know, I'm not cynical. I really hate cynical people. They not only undermine their own lives, but also that of their fellow citizens. We should be, you know, very sincere and serious about our own situation, our own identity. Let me tell you, you know, if you think you are a human being, you want to confront your own parent in some occasions when you try to find your own department, subject, or when you try to find your own jobs. But, you know, how can you how can you persuade your own parent? If your parents want you to become a lawyer or a medical doctor, you want to become a kind of, you know, actor or actress, or become a NGO or some social movement leaders, how can you persuade? How can you convince your own parents? The parents, sons and daughters, the relationship, that's very, you know, tricky. If you stand alone, you can make your own life. You can have your own voice. You can have your own choice. But if you depend on your parent, all the money you needed in your own life, your daily living and your own tuition and all the money needed to buy your own costumes, how can you just oppose, confront, or to rebel against your own parents, their will? You cannot. Will never. To do that, you should make up your mind. You should become more independent, autonomous, sovereign people. That's the only way you can choose your own life, your course. That's the way, even among the family members. If you think, we are sovereign state, we are sovereign people. But if you do not pay all the money, the cost you have to pay, to defend your country, to become a sovereign state, how can you say I'm sovereign? I'm autonomous. Actually, you heavily depend on military affairs and economic affairs and cultural and social affairs with your counterpart countries. And you just say, I'm sovereign people, sovereign state. That's just a monologue. Not a word at all. So all through this course, I will think over Korea's place in these empires. How our ancestors cope with, deal with that forces. From next week, I will proceed to what is historical sociology. Some students, especially the sociology majoring students, have interest in this part, historical sociology. What is historical sociology? I deal with this topic for 2 weeks, and we will proceed to what is the historical sociology of IR. It's a newly emerging subject after the collapse of the Cold War system. It's not enough to analyze and understand the nation state alone. The nation state itself is located into international relations, and many of our social life is just transcending our national boundaries. Just to think over your own daily lives. Every morning when I wake up, I turn on my computer and I just connected myself to some internet domains. And every morning I read the new newspaper, English newspaper, International Herald Tribune, that's the New York Times. Every day, every morning I read at least 2 or 3 editorials. So from the beginning of my day, I just try to connect myself beyond the horizon of our national boundary. In the past, you need passport to go over to. Nowadays, that's the same. When I was your age, in the early 1980s and middle of 1950s, middle of 1980s, if you have passport in your hand, you are a privileged people. Having passport on your hand means when there comes war, another round of war, you can just escape. You can run away. But nowadays, everybody has the passport in there. Just raise your hand. Anyone who have your passport, raise your hand. Passport. 여권. Most of you have that. So having passport, no more, is a privilege. But just 3 decades ago, that's a symbol of power and privilege. What changed? Korea really got globalized, transnationalized, internationalized. China is so big a country. From the beginning, China is an empire. So I visited China many times, but only Beijing Shanghai and Thailand and the northeastern parts. This is the first time that I visit Nanjing, the southern part. It's my totally new horizon. Yeah, that's the first part of my class is some theoretical approaches. I want to let you know that there's some theoretical frameworks. Let me repeat. What is theory and concept in sociological and social theory in general? Without social theory and sociological or social concepts, you cannot watch, you cannot understand what happened around you. It's kind of glasses. Without glass, it's only dim, figure out there. With your glass, your eyes, it's just focused. Everything is just clear. So in order to understand our social world, we need concept, theory. Theory is not something it's good for you if you have, or it's okay if you don't have any theory or concept at all. No, that's not true. Without your shoes, you cannot work, right? With very comfortable foot, you can just work and just run. You need some shoes, some tools to walk. Just like that. In order to think, you need some theory and some concept. And from 6th week, we'll deal with the Korea-China relations, pre-modern and modern era. If my colleagues from history department have chances to look around my syllabus, he or she will just scold me. It's just preposterous. It's just you cannot cover whole pre-modern and modern history in just 2 weeks. You are crazy. I think that I'm myself crazy. I cannot do that. But this is historical sociology. My main concern is to compare Korea-Chinese relation with that of Korea-Japan relation and Korea-US relation. That's my concern, my focus, and I want to lead you to that territory. So I have to just skip. I'm not just dealing with the every details of the historical events. I just want to deal with what happened pre-modern and modern era with China. And then we will proceed to Japanese Empire. It's just 35 years. Just to pay your attention to that. I titled Korea with Chinese Empire. And the second, Korea under Japanese Empire. Here I have some of my own historical and moral judgment. No word is neutral. Under Japanese Empire. As far as I know, during that era, that under Japanese colonial rule, most of Korean intellectuals, they side with the Japanese imperialists. They think of the Japanese order, new order, is totally legitimate. Only a few people oppose. They just throw themselves, they join the independent movement. There are only a few good men out there. Most of the Korean people, lay people, as well as the intellectuals, they side with the Japanese imperial force. Why? They think that's the reality. They think. They put their faith, they strongly believe in that order will last forever. Just like the Japanese Empire, whenever there one dynastic changes, it will last at least 300 years or 5 or 600 years. Just like that. The Japanese Empire, that order will persist, will last at least 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. That's their vision. That's their belief at the time. But suddenly, it just come to an end. After the Japanese Empire challenged the US, and they got defeated after Second World War. So, our independence in August 15th of 1945, it just came abruptly. I will tell you the realities, the real histories, not invented, imagined histories. And after the Second World War, we were with, not with or under, but we, Korea, and American Empire. I put here not with or under, but and. Do I make some moral judgment here? Or do I try to avoid any kind of political or moral judgment? As far as I know, the American Empire is very unique. Before 9/11s, when you talk about the US as empire, that's a blame. When you call US as an empire, that means you are a socialist, communist, you are progressive, or you are leftist, or you are some progressive wing. But after the 9/11s and after the Bush Jr., he attacked Iraq second time, following his father. Even the mainstream US historians and the social scientists, they identify themselves as an empire. What if the US in 21st century is not an empire at all? Which empire in history really deserved that term, empire? Let's make it clear. They just say that's the conservatives and the very heart of the bureaucrats and the political and intellectual leaders. They think, let's assume that's our mission, our privileges. Don't just hide away or don't try to cover up that. Let's embrace the term empire. But still, most of the intellectuals and the politicians and the people are very reluctant to accept that empire. But anyway, the big difference between the US empire and the other empire, as far as I know, is you can challenge me. It's okay. I was just open to to some discussions. The US, even though ever since they established their own country in the northern North America, they just expanded to the west. It's kind of a gold rush, and they reached to the Pacific, and that's true. They colonized the Hawaii, and at some time they occupied and colonized the Philippines. That's for sure. But the U.S. is very unique in the sense that they don't pursue territory. They want to make empires not on the territory, but through exporting ideas and institutions. American empire is not built upon the soil, not territory. It's built upon your heart and mind, your brains, ideas, and your institutions. What kind of ideas or what kind of institutions are the essence of the American empire? There are some controversies out there still going on. But you know, I will just point out this. When the U.S. defeated Japan at the end of Second World War, one of the first things they did when they occupied South Korea in 1945 is that they built up army first, and second, university. Seoul National University was established by the U.S. military government. And the first president of Seoul National University is the U.S. military officer. Is it your first time ever heard this kind of things? Suji, first time? Whenever I tell the historical fact, and the reaction from my fellow students are very, you know, awkward, and they just reacted as if they first listened to that kind of stories. I feel very sorry because, you know, as if I am a kind of magician. I just invented that kind of historical fact from my own brain. Let me ask you to search. You don't have to go to library. You can search. You can type. You can come to know who is the first president of Seoul National University. To our surprise, it's not a Korean. American. I think you can understand. You can have some hints. Why until now? Now Korea, we can make not only the cars, ships, airplanes, but also that you know, the small chips, our electric facilities. But still, we cannot make our own brain. As you all know, in order to become a professor, high-ranking politician or businessman or in any other, you know, field, you have some assumptions in your brain. Nobody instilled that into your mind, but you all knew that you should go to the US, right? No? Is that not that your assumption? Am I wrong? Why? How? How could you believe? How could you come to know? In order to learn something, some higher education, you should go to the US. Who told you that? Maybe nobody. But you knew that. That's the hegemony. That's the power. That's so-called soft power. The Harvard professor Joseph Nye Jr., he coined that term. Hard power is military power and economic power. Through military power, you can threat. If you do not do this, if you do not dismantle your nuclear programs, I will just dismantle all the programs, all the area. Threat, military threat. That's hard power. And economic power. If you dismantle your program, I will give you many monies to rebuild your country. I will give you much food to feed your people, and I will invest lots of money to build factories and give you jobs. Through bribery, you can change the cost of the other people. That's the economic power. That's another kind of hard power. But what is soft power? Anyone can give me some definition of that? What is soft power? I told my fellow Nanjing student the other day on Saturday, I'm not just talking about the historical relationship of China and Korea. The more I'm interested in is how can we make new relationship from now and from here, from among your students, because you belong to the new generation, future generation. Where is Korea-China relationship? Let alone the relationship between and among yourselves. I want to build new relationship, not top-bottom, but bottom-up. I ask you, I hope this class will be the first stepping stone, the beginning of new understanding the Korea-China relationship, and you will make new relationships, not like our ancestors, not my generation. Nanjing student, I have a question of you. When Korea and China normalized our diplomatic relations? Anybody?
Maybe after 1970s, after the normal relations rebuilt between China and America.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, after 1970s, that's for sure. Any other student? After 1970s and before 2012, right? Anyone? That's a homework. You can tell. Yeah.
1980s.
When?
Around 1985.
1985? Why do you think so? 1985?
I think the normalization of Sino-Japan relationship is about 1979, and I think the Sino-Korean relationship should be normalized after that.
So that's the typical way. They think, our Korean student, do you understand? The Nanjing student, when I asked them, when our relationship, Korea-China relationship, got normalized, the female student answered after 1970, because only after that the U.S. normalized relationship with China. And the other student responded, after they normalized relationship with Japan, maybe after that, the China and Korea make diplomatic relationships. So it's that way, that's the typical way you are thinking. Your worldview was instilled in your own brain. I'm not sure, it's 1990s, 1991 or 1992, we normalized. Because I remember at the time, many of my colleagues in Seoul National University, Sociology department, their parents sent their own sons and daughters to China. Although militarily and economically, Korea is heavily dependent on the U.S. after the Second World War, underneath of the Korean mind, we are heavily depend on the China culturally. I still remember when I joined the university, my father asked me to learn Chinese character because I'm I become a Seoul National University student, but I don't know many Chinese characters around 2,000 or 3,000. So my father really got angry. Now you become one of the best university student, but you don't know many Chinese character. What a shame. So I have to learn Gongzi and Mingzi from that time on. So now I can handle at least 5,000 Chinese character. And China, Japan, and Korea all belong to the Chinese cultural sphere. So memorizing, learning Chinese character is not learning Chinese culture at all. To understand our own past, our own history, our own culture, we should learn Chinese. Not colloquial Chinese, but the written Chinese character. So, actually, even though without this class, we share many things. Let me tell you one episode when I was studying in Harvard University in 1997. The Chinese President Jiang Zemin, he visited US and he gave lectures, open lectures in Harvard University. And that's the first time I'm the visiting fellow of Harvard Yenching Institute at that time. And I got permission. I have my own card and I can enter that building. And outside the building, there are huge demonstrations out there. Jiang Zemin is in that hall. And in the beginning, he just gave lectures in Chinese, and the translator, he just translated it into Korean. Among the middle of the speech, he just stopped his interpreter. I learn English, and I can handle it. So you stop, and I will give lectures in my speech in English. And Jiang Zemin, his pronunciation is really good. And he just deliver his speech in English. But still, out there, there are some huge crowds and shouting out there. So he says, "Oh, I know, this is democracy. They have their freedom to exercise. I have my freedom to exercise. If they they practice their own democracy, I will practice my own democracy." And Jiang Zemin, I still remember that moment, suddenly just the volume of his speech. "I will tell you, this is my freedom. If you shout out there, try to intervene, try to destroy my own speech, I will defend. I will do my democracy." And that really is a turning point of my image of Jiang Zemin and the Chinese system. He really got that gut, in Korean, gang or something. So he argued that President Jiang Zemin, he argued, in the US, you exercise your form of democracy. All the people outside that building, they practice their own version of democracy. I'm here inside this building. I exercise my version of democracy. He's arguing that the liberal, the Anglo-Saxonian type of democracy is not the only democracy in this world. And he's talking about civilization. It's very interesting. He's talking about civilization. It looks as if he's arguing that in the US you are talking about democracy and market economy, but do you really know civilization? an empire and governing not just hundred or thousand peoples, millions, billions of peoples. It's not only the democracy, participation, but also law and order that is really needed. The human society. That's what he's saying. He tried to deliver. That's huge shock to me. When I talk about history, I'm not just try to take you back to the past. That's not what I want. I want to make you focus on the present. How this system, this order, this relationship has been made, has been transformed. My major concern lies in the future. What kind of world, what kind of cosmopolitan vision we can share and we can make. I want to join that project. You know, in Korea, as a Koreans, if we don't we don't make that conceive that order, that new order in East Asian region, who will be the victim of that new order? In the past, among the wars and the struggles of the big whales, the big fish, Korea became a kind of shrimp. Got just destroyed, just crushed. Korea no more is a small fish. We are no more. We are big fish. Although we are not an empire at all, but we are no more just small state or small nation state. That's the reason I ask you to look back upon the Korea empire relations, Korea empire relationships. It's not just retrospective kind of approaches. It's a prospective. What kind of a new regional and global cosmopolitan order we should make hand in hand with Chinese people, Japanese people, and the US and Russian people, the lay people. That's the goal of this course. I will stop here and I will have your questions. And
Yeah, and I have a question.
Mm.
Just now, you mentioned the Chinese culture field, that China, Korea, and Japan sharing the similar cultural value.
Heritages,
and I
yeah.
think, but I think that Korea has also has the impact comes from the U.S. I think the U.S. has lived their kind of U.S. Ideals in Korea. So now maybe the current Korea, they share a very mixed culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the mixed culture may somehow change or have a significant influence on our future relations.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. But I think something like, as you said that you want that we can learn the so-called true history in this course and hand in hand with all the people. But I think something happened in the history or in our culture I think may be a bacteria, may be a barrier between the I think, the harmony. So I think that something can change, or something in history may have a very long impact on our ideals, on our culture. So that's, I think, a very complicated thing.
Yeah. That's usually the history. That's the way the history was made, unmade, and remade. Let me tell you one story. You know, I think it's not only Korea, but in China and many Western countries, we have the same proverb. That is, blood is thicker than the water. Really? In China, you have the same proverb, old saying? Blood is thicker than the water. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got this motto, I think.
Uh-huh.
Ancient Chinese word.
Yeah, I think. But today I will tell you two types of blood I have in mind all through this course. I'm not sure any other scholars and any other intellectuals are talking about this. This comes to my mind. If anyone can tell me, you read this, some other books or other articles, tell me. Until now, I think it's my own invention. I strongly believe in that, but I don't want to, you know, persist. I want to argue that this is my own invention. My point is this. We have two kinds of blood when you talk about blood. Blood shared. It's sure. North and South Korean people, we share our own bloodline, right? My parents, my father and mother came down from North Korea. My mother in 1946, after the land reform. My father during the Korean War. My father always told me, when he took the last ship retreat to South Korea in the winter of 1950, he thought he could return home just only a week later. But this 2012, 62 years later, he still cannot come back home. From the viewpoint of a family, you know, reunion, family heritage, you know, it's a tragedy. From my parents' generation's point of view, what is reunification? Reunifying our country. That means just coming back home. Reunifying our family. And extending that family reunion is reunification of a nation. That's the image of the reunification in our parent generation. But I was born in the US, in South Korea. Let me reveal the secret of my birth. I was born in Severance Hospital. Severance. The missionaries, US missionaries, they built that hospital. I was born there. 1963. So I'm a citizen of South Korea. I myself, whenever, after I got my consciousness, I think of myself a member of South Korea, not member of Korean nation. For me, the national unification is not that simple. I have no parents. I have no relatives. Actually, there still lives some of my relatives, that's for sure. I never tried to find out that. That's blood shared. Although for decades, 2 generations, we have never met. We have never have any conversation at all. But still, we shared our blood. That's shared blood. But you know, I will tell you this. I will add. What is blood shed? I don't know how many Chinese volunteers got fallen during Korean War. Can anyone of you give me that figure? How many Chinese volunteers got dead during Korean War? Do you have any statistics about that? You don't have to give back right now the answers, but I ask you, some of you should search and give me that answer. Right? Understand? Yeah. Next week, I want you, one of you, to show me that figure. How many Chinese soldiers got killed during Korean War? I just want to single out. I know the most powerful man, Chairman Mao Zedong, his eldest son, Mao Anning, was dispatched to the Korean theater and he got dead. US bombing. He got dead and buried in North Korean soil. Still, he was buried in North Korea. Mao Zedong's eldest son, he shed his blood. Do you know how many American soldiers got killed during Korean War? Do you have any idea? Whenever we talk about U.S.-Korea relationship, we are talking about we are so-called 혈맹 alliance built upon the blood. But how many of you knew the exact numbers? How many U.S. soldiers your age, when they got dead, they are under your age? They are in their 20s, early, late teenagers or the early 20s. Let me ask you, how many U.S. soldiers got killed during Korean War? Suin, do you have any idea? I may have said so a long time ago. Most of the students in this classroom, I can say, you are one of the best students in Korea. But the fact is, actually you don't know anything about our history. How our ancestors, your parents, your uncles, they make history to let you live. They did not just give birth to you and let you do every suffering and just survive. They not only give birth to you, but also they build up all the institutions. They protect. They make our country safer, secure. They produce factories. They make you jobs to do. You guys just complain about your studies too burdensome. There are so many things to do, and you have so little money and little time. There are so many expectations upon you, and it's so tricky. During the wartime, nobody commits suicide. Why? Just death is everywhere. Death can come at any time, anywhere. So they don't have the luxuries to think about how should I finish my life? When will I have to leave this world? That's so luxurious. You don't know, who shed blood and upon whose cost and sacrifice you can live. I ask you again, how many US soldiers got killed during Korean War in this Korean soil? If you think that's so pivotal, that's so important in entering universities and having some grades, I think you definitely 100% sure you knew not the the numbers, the exact numbers. You have no interest in that figure, that number, as if that has nothing to do with your life and not your future. No, I can say no. That's your imagination. You think that has nothing to do with your life, your future, but that's your own thinking. They have much interest in their own sacrifice. Think over, if your grandson got killed, say in Vietnam or some Afghanistan or Iraq, don't you think you have some interest, some concerns over that country, that soil? A couple of years ago, the Chinese Prime Minister Wen Jiabao, he visited North Korea. He visited that tomb, that graveyard, Mao Anning's. Only a few newspapers, they published that issue, that event. Most of Korean people even did not notice. What does that mean? Every time there was some news, the U.S. they give away North Korea huge amount of money and dig some the skeleton of the fallen U.S. soldiers during Korean War. Whenever that news hit upon the newspapers was our broadcasting news, I got somewhat frightened. They not only remember they joined the battle in Korea, but also they still remember they shed their blood in this soil. Do you think you are living in this soil? You think you are the subject? You are not servant of this country. I'm the king. No, you are not. I'm not. Until we pay back all the cost, and you can claim this is my land, we'll substitute their blood with our sweat, toil, and our tears. It's a word game. It's a trick. What is remembering? Remembering is remembering. If you think you are a member of this Korean society, the member of Korean nation, you should understand, you should know the blood shed on this soil. All of the male students, males in Korea, joined the military service. But it's so awkward. It's it's almost magical. Only a few understand the real history of the real contemporary history of our own society. Almost 37,000 US soldiers got killed during Korean War. Not 37, 370, 3,600. 37,000 US soldiers got killed during Korean War. That's history. That's reality. That's the blood shed. Let me ask you, which blood is thicker? Blood shared? Blood shed. In North Korea, in China, Dandong, just the across the Shinjuju, there has big institute. The Chinese volunteers, they joined the Korean battlefield. Their institute. They make configurations, many configurations. They just about to cross the Yalu River and try to help North Korean people, North Korean comrades. When I visited there last summer, before that time, I thought the Korean War was over more than 50 years. It belongs to the history, not no more reality. But when I went there and in front of the institute, I come to realize that, oh no, history comes alive. It's not buried at all. It comes alive. It's here and now with us. But you guys don't know that historical fact. You just never learn, never try to memorize, never try to cherish that memory. So from your point of view, that kind of thing never happened, never existed. But that's only from your own subjective viewpoint. Let me repeat. You are in your 20s and you think you are an adult. Can you claim that I'm a sovereign people? I'm autonomous people? Do you think you already paid all that cost needed to become a free man, free citizen? That's my main questions all through this class. I like some, joke, and I really want to make the atmosphere of this class very somewhat ridiculous, and I want to show you many pictures and some films and some tables and statistics to attract your attention. But still, the theme I'm carrying all through this course is not that funny. I'm talking about real history, reality, whether you like it or not. I want to take you to make you all have your own packs under your back and have some mountain hiking with me. I don't think your burden is not that much. At first, before I met my Nanjing student, I want to impose all these reading materials, 4 books, but now I just reduce 1 book and 100 pages. That's compulsory and that's required reading. And all the other, after the midterm exam, it's up to you. All you have to do is to write down the final exam, in-class exam, and the final term paper. Although I'll give you all the lectures all the time. we don't have to write down and memorize the content. You have to prepare yourself for is Korea-Chinese relations, Korea-Japan relations, Korea-US relations. Not this time series, China, Korea, Japan, Korea, US, Korea. Korea has relationship from the ancient times with China until now. And Korea has relationship with Japan until now, US until now. Just what I want to you guys to do is to transcend the national boundaries, national history. I want to look at the history not from our nation state viewpoint. We call it that's methodological nationalism, and it could be written in Chinese character. Wait, Rui, can you watch this? Methodological nationalism and this Chinese character all through here? Yeah. Okay. This is 방법론적 일국주의. It's not nationalism. It means you confine yourself your own national boundary. That's methodological nationalism. I want to transcend this viewpoint to lead you to some kind of methodological cosmopolitanism. So I ask you to read premodern, modern, and contemporary history, not through the lens of nation state, national history viewpoint, but transnational, global, or international viewpoint. You cannot find any ready-made answers out there. You cannot ask your elders or your uncles or father to give you some cooked ready-made answers. That's the new agenda now emerging. So if you can write down very unique answers, I think you can become a new generation scholar, unique scholar. Let me add one thing. When I visit Nanjing University, we make it clear, we already announced to our Chinese counterpart student, Nanjing University student. Among you, we will select one student, just one. We have the limitation of our resources. And we will accompany you all the way to China. Not only Nanjing, but also Fudan University. And we will meet a student there, and you have some discussions. The timetable is not yet set, but it should be the early June or late June. So before the beginning of 2 weeks before the beginning of the final exam, but after the final exam. And for the Nanjing University student, we will invite one of you, not just to invite, we will invite you, we will pay all the airfare, and we will invite you to international school in Korea University. We will pay all the tuitions and all the money, or the dorms and all the money. So if you devote yourself, it will really deserve your effort, I guarantee. So if you have interest in this course and if you want to expand your horizon to China, do your best. Although the city is just one, if you got selected, you can go to Shanghai and Nanjing and you can make friends in there. You can look around there. That's the privileges. Any questions? Yeah.
As you say, remembering the history is remembering. But remembering means we have forgotten it, or just we even just don't know it. And history is just history. The world is different. And as the wave of globalization and technique advances, and the arena of international competition is about, as you say, soft power, ideology, innovation ability. And now in this class, we are communicating in English, not Chinese, not Korean, in English, and through the technique of the company of Google, a company from the US. So just ask you, what do you think about it?
It's a very complicated question, actually. It's very easy to say. We will communicate. We will share some experiences, and we have to, enlarge our horizons, transcend our national boundaries. You should be cosmopolitan, not nationalistic. But when it comes to how can it transcend our boundary? It's very hard to answer, to cope with that situation. For example, when you have lectures, if I ask you, to listen to my lecture, you should learn Korean. How many of you will, pay the cost, that amount of energy and money, effort? But it's so through this English. I know there are many criticisms, criticizing. There are so many people are against using English, even giving lectures in English in Korean soil, especially in Korea University. They are hugely against that idea. But this is reality. We are giving lectures in English. And I told you when I visited Nanjing University, I myself did not go to the US to get degree there. In my age, my generation, we have some anti-American kind of sentiment. That's for sure. I don't want to make my English American mentor. But still, as an individual level, that's for sure, I can exert my effort. But national level or institutional level, I can say I grow in age, I may grow in grace. If I got degree in the US and because of that I can handle fine English and give lectures in English, and in lectures I'm delivering, I have some pro-US sentiment instilled in the lecture. But as I told you, I give lectures in English, but I'm not pro-US. Also, I'm not pro-China. I'm pro-Korea. I don't confuse, I ask you to communicate each other. We should transcend our national boundaries. That's our goal. That's our task. We have to do. We have to serve. But still, we should have our foot on the soil. We cannot just float. As a scholar, I belong to the cosmopolitan, transnational, global community. I should be fair in the global trial, global court. That's for sure. But as a citizen, let me tell you one episode. Almost a decade ago, when North Korea first exploded their nuclear warhead, they tested. There were some controversies in our department at Seoul National University. What should we do? One of my friends told, he is against war. He will retreat to his hometown and stay with his family. One of my friend is kind of very activist. He will make some anti-war league, or he will lead some movement, peace movement. And the other guy says also, and at last, the finger comes upon me. What are you going to do? My answer is, I will join the war. I will fight. If North Korea confronted, they challenged us, I will fight. I cannot just retreat. I cannot hide away. I cannot just confront any kind of war. I will join the army. I'm a military officer. If the war occurs and somebody has to die, that should be me. I'm not a patriot. I'm not a warmonger. But when it comes to fight, war comes, I will be the first. Although I'm a scholar, I give lectures in English, but I'm still proud of myself. I'm not a US PhD holder. I'm not entirely, Americanized, not overwhelmed. Although I give lectures in English, I have a totally balanced opinion about US policy toward Korea and US-Korea relationships. I can prove that. All through this course, I can tell you only the truth, whether it's against our national interest, whether it looks like I'm just apologizing, I'm legitimizing the US position, US policy. I'm telling the truth. Sometimes, listening to the truth is very hard. It's true, I overcome that handicap. Although I don't like US, I don't like the US people in general, the lay people, the US policy toward Korea. Don't confuse some policies with the US empire or US people altogether. So, in Nanjing University, only a few students can attend this class because this lecture was delivered in English. In that sense, although we have some common ground through this course, you can have some conversations through this class. But we cannot hide, that's true. Many students cannot join this class because this class was delivered in English. In the first place, we have some selections, exclusion of someone. Although we can say, we exclude nobody. I and you, in Nanjing University, as a subjective, student and instructor, I never excluded anybody. But exclusion, selection has occurred. You should understand that. I'm very happy you just talk about that aspect. But let me. I don't think this is a final answer, and not that a proper answer too. In the meantime, how can you communicate? If you guys, the Nanjing University student, if you want to give us some lectures, you should learn Chinese. Maybe some scholars in Korea can deliver lectures in Chinese, but only a few. I think until the time when we agreed, when we make some pact, some agreement about when we make conversations, Korean Chinese or Korean Japanese, Korean Americans or Korean Russians. Maybe someday, when I was studying in Harvard, the MIT University, they are trying to. They told me they almost invented that machine, auto, interpretation machine. Until now, more than 90% of the sentences in any language could be translated into English automatically. Someday, without any learning language or any interpreter, we can have conversation through machine. Who knows? It could be just tomorrow, or just 1 year to come. But until then, let's make some measures. You can understand English. I can handle English. So don't think about what is the dominant language here. Why you give lectures in English? I think it's true. The form restricts the content, but I want to prove you. Although I give lectures in English, the contents are not entirely pro-American or pro-Anglo-Saxonian approaches. I think this is a kind of a miracle for me. I'm a Korean. I can handle fine English. I'm not sure whether you agree with me or not. But anyway, I can give lectures in English and in balanced opinion. If any miracle, occurs to me, this is the moment I practice my miracle. I don't think that's a good answer to you, but I ask you to be somewhat patient. It's not the language per se, language itself, but the content. Through this course, what kind of relationship, what kind of knowledge do we develop? I think that's the point. Thank you.